Please give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. If you're can you hear me? Mr. Fash, Alex, can you guys hear
Yeah,
me?
go ahead, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. So so today's task is gonna be very easy. The other time in our last class, I think I told you I will try and see if we can pull data directly from the AdventureWorks 2019. So I was able to pull that thing. So let me show you how to do that, because basically we're pulling some of the data table in the AdventureWorks 2019 database. So let's go to, if you open your Power BI desktop, before you do that, the first thing that you have to do is that you need to connect to this, your AdventureWorks database. You have to load it. You have to load it and connect it. So basically what we'll be using is the server name. You can see this is my own server name. You should have your own. Then you click connect. Just for us to connect it and just leave it. So come to your Power BI desktop, click on the get data and choose the SQL Server. You know, it is Microsoft SQL Server. So select this. So the server name is going to pop up, and just put your server name. That's going to be based on what your machine server name is. You put that value there. You don't have to put any database name here. Just ensure that the import radio button is checked and click on OK. So this should take you to the AdventureWorks 2019 database. So we have the views, we have the data table, and these are the store procedure, the derived table, and other things that we created in our SQL class. So that is that. So let me just close this. So this is out. Okay, let me just show you how to pull in the data. So let me just select this. So if I select the human resources data table, human resources department table, then I can load it here. Yeah, so this is it. So this is this is how the live environment also behaves. Whenever you're connecting to a live database, this is how to connect to a live database when you are working in a particular organization domain. So this is how it works. Not a big deal. In most case, the SQL admin organization, we have a SQL administrator, is going to be the one to give you permission to access this. In most cases, it will give you the server name, and it will enable your user ID to be able to connect. And that's all. You just download your SSMS and put in the credentials and do connect. Then you'll be able to pull the data into the Power BI desktop. So this has been accomplished. So if you have any issue pulling data from the AdventureWorks 2019, please can reach out to me, then we can do that together. So the second task here is how to manage relationship, which is very, very important. So before I start my explanation, I'll bring in the human resources employee and the person password, and I'll also bring in the human resources employee department history. And I also attach an Excel spreadsheet in the email that I sent out this afternoon before our class. So I'm going to bring all this table. And if you want to remove a table from your Power BI desktop, you'll see like the three dotted ellipses. Just click on it and do delete from model. So this is how to delete the data table from your model. So that's that. So let me bring in the human resources employee department history and the human resources employee. So this is what I would do. I'll click on my get data. I'll click on the SQL server. And then I'll put the database, the server name. I'll connect to it. Then I will select this. So I want to bring in the human resources employee. I will load it. So I'm loading this data table just for me to explain how to create a cardinality, what cardinalities, the type of cardinality we have in Power BI when we are building the model, and how to read the direction. So I've brought in the human resources employee table. Let me bring in the second one. So I'll click on the get as well. Go to SQL Server. So each time, simply because this server is on my computer, that's the reason why it's requesting for the server name every time. If it is a live environment, it won't. So let me bring in my resources department. I think it's department history. Department history. And you can see that it's a preview where you can see the columns that the data table has. So you can click on load. For the sake of the cardinality, I won't click on transform and load. I just want to show you how to manage the relationship, how to form a relationship. So, okay. So now we have two tables, and the third one is let's see. Okay, person password, I think. Okay, person password. So let's do the person password. Person password. Person password. I will load this. So the last one is going to be the transaction table that I attach with the study document. So since that is an Excel spreadsheet, I'm just going to select the Excel workbook, and I think the name is transaction table. Select the transaction table, then click open. like this, and I'll click OK. So now I have 4 tables here. So let me rename these and give it let me give it transaction table transaction. Let's give this to be, let's just rename this to be employee. And let's make this to be department. So in our last class, I told you that I explained what each of these view does. So we have the report view. This is where we build our visuals. We have the table view, which is this, and we have the model view. This is the model view is where we manage our relationship. So let's click on the model view. You can see that this table joined together automatically simply because it was able to sense. Whatever they share in common. If you take a look at the direction arrow, you can see it's connected using the business entity ID for the employee table and the business entity ID for the department table. Oh, so let's change this to be password. I don't know why this. Let's change this to be password. So we have the password, we have the transaction. So let me go back to the document. So why do we have cardinality? What is cardinality? Like it's pretty very similar to when we say cardinal point. So in Power BI, we have 4 types of cardinality option in Power BI. So let me show you this. If you click on the manage relationship in the model view, you can see we have let me select this. Okay, let me do edit. Show pause. Okay. So after loading the employee table and the department table, the Power BI desktop was able to automatically form a relationship between the department table and the employee table. So as you can see, this is the name of the table, which is the department, and this is the name of another table. So the department table and the employee table are joined using the business entity ID. So if you take a look at the cardinality here, it says many to one. Many from, okay, let me click on the down angle just for you to see the options that we have for cardinality that have been pre-built in Power BI desktop. So we have many to one, we have one to one, we have one to many, and we have many to many. So I will explain that. I just want to show you where the cardinality options lives in the Power BI. So you go to the model view. Once you go to the model view, if the system automatically forms a relationship, another way for you to get to the relationship is to click on the edit. In the edit relationship, you'll be able to see the characteristics of each of the relationship between the tables that are connected in the report at the model view. So we have cardinality and we have cross filter direction. So these are the things that I will be explaining now. So let me just close this out. So many to one. So a many to one relationship is the most common default type of relationship It means the column in each table can have more than one instance of a value. And the other related table, often known as the lookup table, has only one instance of a value. So basically, many-to-one relationship is like, let me use a teacher, a lecturer, and student. Many students will be taught, can be taught by a teacher. For instance, if that teacher is a, let's say, if that teacher is let's say is as an anatomy teacher, the professor or the lecturer teaches anatomy, and he is the only anatomy teacher in that university. It means that lecturer is going to teach a lot of students, right? So many students will have a relationship with that teacher. Any student that studies maybe biomedical sciences, biochemistry, anatomy, physiology, they're going to pass through the lecturer's class. That means many students will be taught by that single teacher. Also, many students can be taught by many teachers. What it means in a nutshell is that if we have a class and that class contains like, let's say 50 students, and those students are taking a particular class, like for instance now, you guys, the kind of relationship that we have from the student to the instructor relationship is many students to a single instructor. So that is how it works. And the many relationship is denoted by the asterisks. A single instructor can teach many students. Many students can be taught by a single instructor. Many students can be taught by many instructors. For instance, if I have another person that I can take this class, and I say, okay, fine, I just want to take a Thanksgiving break, and I tell the other instructor to teach you guys. If we have two lecturers or two instructors taking the same class, and inside that class, it contains the same set of students. So that means it is a many-to-many relationship. Many lecturer to many students. So how can we build a many-to-one relationship? Many-to-one relationship is that if you take a look at a transactional table, okay, let me do this. Let me do annotation. So if we have like, let's say we have 1/1/2021, and I have 1/1/2021, and I have 1/1/2021, and here we have let's say the customer ID is 12, and let's say this is 12, and let's say this is same customer 12. Let's say this is 13. So the way it works is that, you know, this is an ID, a unique ID. It means that this customer, this is gonna be, let's say this is let's say this is $14. Let's just assume this is $12. Let's say this is what, $5, and let's say this is $56. So what it means is that this customer at this date, he purchases or purchased an item worth of $12 and an item worth of $45. But if I want to do a many-to-one relationship, on this single day, we have 2 customers with total of 3 transactions. So this is going to be, whenever it is greater than 1, it is many customer to a single day. So this is a many to one relationship. But let's say, for instance, we have 11 and we have 12. And we have this to be 13 and we have this to be 14. So you can see that on this day, this customer purchased this customer ID with ID number 12. On 1/1/2021, it purchased an item of 12. On 1/11/2021, another customer purchased an item worth of $5. At 1/12/2021, another customer purchased what? 14. This is one-to-one relationship because this transaction is taking place in a different day that we cannot combine, and it's been the transaction, the purchase is being done by different customer. So this is the relationship of purchase of this transaction is going to be one-to-one based on the date and the customer. Yes. So a country to many states. Yes. So one country to many states. So that's how it works. So this is one-to-one. I've shown you one to many, and this is one. So another thing is that if this is my reference point, as Mr. Fash said, a country to many states. So this is what? This is one to many. If I change it and I say many states to a country, it's going to be many to one. So based on what Mr. Fash said, the country is the reference point, which is the starting point. So the direction of the relationship is going to be what? It's going to be going towards the right-hand side. A country to many states, that's one to many. A publisher to many book, that's one to many. But if I say many books to a publisher, so this is a many to one relationship. And how do you identify all this relationship? Let me this. So how do you identify this relationship? Is by looking for one and asterisks. In some article or some books, they always deleted, some use N and M. Some use 1 and M. But always they will just tell you what that N and M means. Some people will use the N to mean one, while some will use the M to use many. While some will use 1 and asterisk, 1 as one, asterisk as many. Some will use 1 and N. It all depends on the article you are reading. So basically, this is a one-to-many relationship. One-to-many relationship. What it means is that this business entity ID here has many occurrences in the what? In the department table. So if we take a look at the department table, so let's do something. The department table. So department table, we have, let's see. So department table, we have 296 records. And in the, let's take a look at this. In the employee, let's see, employee. So in the employee, so, okay. So in the employee, we have 290. In the department, we have 296, which means that there is an occurrence of an business entity ID here that occurs maybe more than one here. That is the reason why we have one-to-many relationship. Let's do something. Let's go to transform data. I want to show you something. So let's do so the employee, okay, this is chronological. This is chronological for the employee. Let's do the department. Department. Okay. So there is an attribute in the department here that occurs more than one based on the business entity ID in the employee table. So that is how they form the one-to-many relationship. Whenever there is something here in this table that occurs more than once here and being related using the business entity ID, it's going to be one-to-many relationship. So let's try and manage a relationship manually. The system will auto generate a relationship, and we can also set our own relationship manually. And to do that, we'll click on the manage relationship, and let's set a relationship for the password using the employee table and the password. So to do that, we'll click on the new, then let's click on the employee, and let's do the password. So what it means is this: an employee we have what can only have one single password. So let's click on this. An employee can only have one single password. The person can have multiple passwords to so many applications. But in an organization, once your username and password has been created in the AD, in the Active Directory, you are expected to change your password. So whatever password you change is going to be what you will use across most of your application if it is within a domain. In some case, maybe you have a third-party application. Maybe you have a partner that is working for you guys and they have a portal. They're going to send you the link to their portal. You create your own username and password. You can decide to put any other username or password in that. But whenever you change your password within a domain of an organization, all other applications within that domain is going to inherit the password that you change. And in most organizations, just for security reasons, it's always your password is always set to a particular number of days for you to change it again, simply because of security and some they'll send you like a notification that your password is expiring at so date. You have to like change it so that the system will not push you out. If you don't change it, you'll be locked out of the system. You'll be locked out of the domain. So that's how it works. So let's click on OK. And let's click on. So can you see that now? So we have one-to-one relationship based on the password using the business entity ID. The reason why it is always good to build a relationship, to manage a relationship, to form a relationship in Power BI is simply because of what? Because by the time we are building our visuals and we are introducing a slicer, most times we are building a report with the aim of showing patterns and trend. So if there is no relationship between the tables, then that shows that the slicer you introduce in your report might not be working. It's not going to make your report to be dynamic. Do you get what I'm saying? For instance, if I have a date table for a transactional data set, I have a date table. For my date.
Excuse me, Oga Abby.
Yeah, go ahead.
I am lost in this class where I took time off from work to just join this particular one. I don't know if this class is for somebody that is already working with Power BI, or you are just training people that don't know anything about Power BI. So I am kind of.
Do you watch the last week video?
You're still on it. Yes.
You have not. You are still watching it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So this is the basics. I can say this is the basic. We are not writing any serious code today.
Okay.
But this is how to join the table. Before you can build a report that will be dynamic, the tables have to have a relationship. And the different types of relationship that we have in Power BI is this. We have 4 different types of cardinality: the many-to-one, the one-to-one, the one-to-many, and many-to-many.
I got that one. Yes.
So the reason why we have to set up and manage a connection relationships is simply because if you have like a data table, let me show you this. Let me use this. If you have like a data table, I want you to take a look at, pay attention to the start date. You can see we have February, January, December, blah, 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 right? And they are all 2009 and 2008. And I want to introduce a filter. When I say slicer is the same thing as filter. I want to slice down my report based on the month and the year, right? It is important that this table have to have a relationship with the date table, so that whenever I click any month, whenever I click on January, I only want the value for January in my report. The slicer is only going to be pulling any value that is associated to January. Do you get what I'm saying? So before I can do that, I have to tie each of the table in this report. I have to build a relationship between them and have to tie it to a date table. Another thing, since I will be writing a dash expression, I might need a column from here. I might need an entity from here. I might need a column from, when I say column, entity, I'm just using them interchangeably. It means the same thing. I might need an entity from here as well. They have to be related before I can write a dash expression for them. Do you get what I'm saying? For instance, if I need a password from a password table, and I want to, if I'm taking a password from a password table, definitely the password table have to be related with an employee before I will be able to build a report that will be meaningful. Simply because an employee in an organization will have a password, and we want to see the date that the password was modified. Then, if I want to say, okay, fine, informal password was modified in so date, the password table does not contain informal, right? The employee table contains informal. So that means there must be an existing relationship between the employee table that contains informal's name and the password table that stored informal's password. Are you getting me? We can't just pull data tables into the Power BI and start building reports. No. We have to transform. We have to manage the relationship. If it is a transactional data set, we need to bring in a date table to connect it, so that by the time we want to look at the trend, we'll be able to say, okay, fine, I just want to see the first quarter of the year. The first quarter is, okay, the first 3 months. I just want to see January, February, and March. If all the table or the table that's supposed to be tied to that date table is not tied to it, it will make your report to be interactive. It will make it to be dynamic. Simply because, don't forget that the data we are pulling from the get data is from the SQL server. And the SQL server is going to be updated based on the time frame that has been scheduled for it to be updated. So once we are pulling data from here, let's say we are pulling data for 2022, and we have up to December 2022, and we move to another year, which is 2023. If you don't build your report to be dynamic as well by tying into a date table using an auto calendar function, that means your report will not be dynamic. The whole report is going to end by what? By 2023, even despite the fact that the data coming from the live data SQL server, from the live database is updated. If you don't build your report to be dynamic, it won't support the growth in the data set. So this is a very important part of building reports in Power BI. Your relationship must be very correct. Simply because, like, look at this connection right now. Look at the employee and the department table. I can easily write a DAX expression from these two tables. I can also connect these two tables, if it is a transactional data, to a date table. And I will be able to drill down quarterly, monthly, by day of week, or by year. Once I establish a correct relationship between the two tables. Does that answer your question? Or do you want me to go over it again?
No, I'm clear a little bit now. Thank you.
Yeah. So Alex, do you have any question? Are you clear with that?
Yeah, I'm clear. I'm with you.
Okay, cool. So that is that. The relationship is very important in Power BI. If you don't build any relationship here, and our data table is not well formatted, is not well transformed, there is no way we'll be able to solve the customer problem. It is very important. And another thing is this. Whenever you are engaging your customer at the business understanding phase of your project, you should be able to understand the business operation of that customer. Maybe, for instance, a department that sells, maybe let's use an hospital. You want to build like a kind of patient experience dashboard. And the patient experience dashboard, you want to base it on the number of visits that the patient has, maybe for the period of 2 years, historical report. You know that some patient details might appears in the database more than once, which is very, very normal, right? So if in the hospital settings, we always have different table. Let me use my annotation table so that you guys will get it clearly. In our hospital settings, we will have what? We have the patient table, right? We have the patient table. We have the provider table. Some organization will call it PCP table, and we have the diagnosis table, and we have the customer feedback, right? Definitely, customer feedback are the reviews that the customer will drop after the completion of their care service, right? After receiving the care from the hospital. This might be coming from a different database entirely, but you still have to connect to it, right? So for instance, a customer ID, a patient ID, PID, a patient's table will be able to join to provider ID simply because a patient is seen by a provider, right? So a PID will be a primary key, will be a PK, yeah, and will also be PK is going to be a foreign key here as well. So that means the patient table will be able to join to the provider table. And for each patient that is seen by a provider, definitely there must be an history of care, and the history of care will contain what? The diagnosis, right? So if the diagnosis table is stored separately, I can tell you the patient's primary key still going to be able to, it's going to be a patient, let's say patient foreign key. So patient foreign key will be able to join to the diagnosis table to fetch data. So this is doing like a kind of what? Like a lookup. When the patient's ID is 2, go and look for the foreign key that's stored 2 and fetch me the diagnosis for this patient. And also the customer feedback, a patient foreign key is going to be here. So the foreign key is what the patient table will use to pull the required information from each of these 3 tables. So afterwards, then we'll be able to have a single table. If it is a SQL, right? Then we'll be able to have a single relational table that will contain all the information that we need for the patient, the provider name, and maybe the provider name and the provider specialty. Maybe it is a gynecologist, maybe it is a family physician or whatever, and the diagnosis of the patient and the customer feedback. So if the review, the feedback that the customer gives is stored in a different database, then we need to find a way to join to it. This is the essence of building what? A connection, a relationship. So with the relationship, that means whenever we build a report and we want to slice down by a particular slicer, by a particular attribute, if all these are not connected, if there is no relationship, if no relationship exists between these tables or among these tables, then your slicer will not work dynamically. It is very important that whenever you are meeting with a customer and you're trying to solve their problem, it is very important that you know how their business flow. Some organization, some business unit have a business flow. A business flow will tells you how their operation is being conducted. Okay, our normal operation flow is from the physician to the patient, or from the nursing assistant to the patient. When you get into the hospital, they will take your vitals. After taking your vitals, they will update your chart, your portal. After they update your portal, they will take you to a room. After they took you to a room, a physician will attend to you. If you have to do a lab work, a physician will send a lab order to the lab. If you need to pick up a medication, it will send a med order to any nearby pharmacies that you have in your chart. So there are organization operation workflow. So once you understand the workflow, then you'll be able to figure out what are the best type of relationship that you need to build among or between the tables that were used in the business operation. So you can't just build relationship on top of your head. Anyway, mere looking at the data table at times, you might be able to select to do that. But in the case where the system or the Power BI desktop is unable to detect the relationship automatically, then you need to understand the business operation. It is very, very important. Because at time you might be probably doing like a kind of calculation, and if you didn't build or you didn't connect your table properly, you might find it difficult not to track the exact number that you were supposed to track. So that is how it works. The relationship management is very, very important in Power BI. It relies the dynamic and the interactiveness of your visual depends on how you build your relationship. It is very, very, very important. For a dynamic workflow or a dynamic Power BI report, it is very important that you set your relationship between the tables correctly. If not, then you run into a lot of problems. So that is that. So let's proceed. Clear all this. So I think I've explained the cardinality, the many to one, one to one, the password, one to many. It depends on the parts of how your table is being structured. For instance, if I have this, I have many here. If I have the department to be here and I have my employee to be here, it's like just changing it. It depends on how the something is structured. So it's simply the same thing. So the another thing is the cross filter direction. The cross filter direction option can have one of the following settings, both. For filtering purpose, both tables are treated as if they are a single table. The both settings work well with a single table that has many lookup tables that surround it. So let's do this. The other time, okay, let me show you something. Okay, it says as many lookup tables that surround it. An example is a 6 actual tables with a lookup table for its department. This configuration is often called a star schema configuration, a central table with several lookup tables, which is pretty very similar to the other time. I think in our SQL class, I show you something about a fact table that has a lot of dimension table. Let me see if I will be able to draw this. Let me see. So for instance, let's say we have, this is a fact table. This is a fact table. Let's say fact. It's a fact table. And this fact table contain, fact table is like a parent table that contain virtually all other things that is required in other table. Like for instance, I said the other time I was talking about a family tree. In a family tree, we have the grandfather, grandmother, we have the father, we have the mother, we have the father side, we have the mother side, we have the grandkids, we have the niece, we have the nephew. But the family tree is the fact table, right? And we have all these small tables, right? All these small tables contain a very a distinct attribute here. Let's say this is the father. Let's say this is the father, and we have the mother as well here. And we have let's say we have the great grandfather here. We have the great grandmother here. We have probably the cousins or whatever or something here. So this kind of an architecture is similar to what is being explained here. We have a fact table and the dimension table that has a value in it. So we can do this, like we can fetch a value from the dim table. We can also fetch a value from this fact table. So this direction is still going to give us something here. And here, you can still also fetch a value here. So that is what they call a cross filter, both direction. Because this F, which is the father, is a subset of this family tree. The mother is a subset of this family tree. And let's say this is the grandfather. And this is the grandmother. They are all what? They are all They all have information here, but this is the granularity. This is the granular level based on each relationship that they have with this family tree. So it says the both settings work well with a single table that has many lookup tables. So this DM serves like what? As a lookup table, simply because from this family tree we can easily look up. Okay, fine. I want to know the age of my dad. The age of my dad is here simply because my dad table has a relationship here. By the ID, it can join to the fact table. But my dad table actually give me more information that is peculiar to my dad. So this is a lookup. If you want to look anything of about my dad, you come to my dad and see it, and you can also trace it back to what? To the family table. So this configuration is often called a star schema configuration, a central table with several lookups tables. So this grandfather, grandmother, all these subtables surrounding this family tree table are the dimension table, and at the same time contains information that is peculiar to them and can also be traced back to their family tree. So that is how that works. Let me take this off. Do you have any question about this? Cross-filter direction. You can go this way, you can go the other way.
It's quite clear. Thank you.
So however, if you have two or more tables that also have lookup tables with some in common, then you won't want to use the both setting. To continue the previous example, in this case, you also have a budget sales table that records target budget for each department. And the department table is connected to both the sales and the budget table. Avoid using both settings for this kind of configuration. What this means is that when there is a subtable, like a dimension table that contains the same value, like how can I put it? If you have like let's say we have that family table, and the father maybe is a twin. Do you get what I'm saying? Twin, the same gender, the same attribute, the same everything. Instead of using a both settings for the both of them to be connected to the family table, do you get what I'm saying? We can disable one and just use one, simply because all the information that we need from the is it the what do they call it in Nigeria, the Taiwo, is contained in the Taiwo, and how what is contained in Kenya as well is the same thing. Instead of setting the relationship to point to both tables, it's better we just use a single, just use a one, which means that whenever you are doing your data investigation, you want to make sure you connect to the most important table that you believe will be suitable for your data analysis or for your report. That is what it means. In some instance, you might even connect it and the Power BI might just not recognize it or just break it. It all depends. That is the reason why it is always good to do some validation once you are done with building your report or doing your project. Because by the time you validate and you are supposed to see maybe probably put 60 records, or the value you are supposed to get in your measure is about 200 and you are getting 198, you might want to probably investigate and come back to the model view to go and see how the relationship was being managed and how it was created. So that is that. So single, the most common default direction, which means filtering choices in connecting tables, works on the table where values are being aggregated. The most common default direction, which means the single is the most common default direction, which means filtering choices in connected tables work on table where values are being aggregated. I think by now we should all know what aggregation means. We are aggregating data, we are adding, we are summing, we are averaging, we are selecting max, we are selecting the minimum. So whenever you are performing an aggregate function on a particular table, it is always good to set the relationship to single. So I want you to note this part. So these are the things that can affect your calculation when you are building DAX expression. So if you import a power pivot in Excel 2013 or earlier data model, all relationship will be a single direction. So the both settings direction, I think is part of the new enhancement for Power BI. They keep changing a lot of things in Microsoft. So that is that. Do you have any question before we proceed?
I have a question.
Please go ahead.
Please, this your last statement. Can you give us maybe an example that we can easily relate?
Okay.
Where you said note that to have a single. Please avoid both settling for this kind of calculation. Then say, where is it? A single. If you
If you are featuring
yeah, I say if you import a power
pivots in Excel 2013.
single direction. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Direction.
So the single direction is the default. Is the Microsoft default before they introduce a new feature. There is always I can upgrade Power BI, maybe Power BI Desktop 2022, 2023. They all support different things and they come with different features. So what this says is that if you import a Power Pivot in Excel 2023, 2013 or earlier data model, all relationship will be a single direction, which means, sorry, let me do manage. Let's do edit. Can you take a look at this? So what it says in the not share is that if your data model is 2013 and earlier from Power Pivot, by default, the cross filter direction is just going to be single. We won't have both for it. And the reason why we have single filter direction is for what? Whenever we are aggregating, maybe okay, fine, we are aggregating a data set. We are writing a DAX expression, and we are using two data tables. The relationship between the two data tables have to be single for it to give us the required result. Does that answer your question?
Are you saying we merge the two tables? Is that what you are saying?
Okay, I think it's simply because let me look at this relationship. If look at this edit relationship, this is department table, this is employee table, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I want to aggregate, I want to write a DAX expression to calculate, to sum or to do anything. Using these two tables, the relationship between them must be single for me to get the exact result. If it is both, you might write that DAX expression, it might work, but by the time you introduce a slicer, when we introduce a slicer and you want to drill down by a particular attribute, the result might truncate. It might not give you the exact result. When we get to the real answer, please try and remember. I will show you what I mean by this.
Okay, because from what I can see, if you are, we have two tables. We have department table, we have employee table, and the matching column is business entity ID. So you are bringing them together. By the time you are now using your DAX or whatever, or calculated columns or measure whatever, it will be able to see all the whatever values, see that a single table, and you can do a whole lot of things around it. So I'm just trying to see the single, the both.
Yeah. So majorly the difference between the single and the both is that it is in a best practice to use a cross filter single direction whenever we are aggregating data between tables that connected or really or related. Like this department table and the employee table. If we are doing an aggregation, we want to maybe calculate a measure based on this and this. Maybe you are extracting a particular column from this. The relationship that must exist between the two tables must be single. That is the default, anyways. In some case, if you use the both, and during your data validation process, you discover that the value that you get does not really correspond with what the customer told you. Maybe you are doing your validation and the customer is like, okay, Mr. ID, you know what? Last week we only seen 20 patients, but your own report is giving us just 18. So one of the things that you can need to investigate is to go and investigate your relationship. You investigate your relationship, and afterwards, you investigate your dash expression. And afterwards, before even you investigate your dash expression, you want to check if the data type and all other little things are correct. So that is that. In most cases, I have not have any reason to use both direction. It all depends on how you do your data from transformation, maybe from the get data level. If you are pulling data from the SQL level, from a SQL server, and you believe the performance of the query you are writing is not going to hinder anything, you can probably undo a lot of these things from the get data level. There's so many ways to this thing. And that is that. So it's worth investigating. But when we do get to the hands-on proper, then we'll test it, the single and the both are cross without direction relationship.
All right.
So that is that. So another thing is this. Let's go to. I bring in this transactional table. So we have a relationship between the employee table and department table. We have a relationship between the password and employee. So let's try and see if we can create a relationship between the department. So do you think it is necessary for us to create a relationship between the department and password table? Mr. Fash.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, I think what I think what we can do that will simplify this is one, we have 4 tables here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, since we have 4 tables there, transaction table is a fact table, right? That's what I'm thinking. Why employee, department, passwords, there might be the dimension table. So let's bring the transaction down. Let's have employee, department, password around the transaction. Now we'll now be joining them together to establish, as in to build a model. That is what I'm thinking, because it might be easy, it might be somehow confusing when you are joining and everything is just on the same line. Let's do something like a star schema and see how they are related.
So I want Mr. Fash to answer this question simply because he just joined us.
Yeah, there's a relationship there. They have a column that is common. You have the business entity ID, but like you said, when you are explaining fact and dimension, the dimension should be surrounding the fact table.
Exactly. Yeah.
With their as what do you call it now? With their primary key all present in the fact table. So, like you said, so that it will be a one-directional relationship. If there is a way we could connect them to the transaction table, so that the transaction table will be the fact table.
Yeah. So this is the thing. I made reference to the employee and the okay. I made reference to the department and password. in a real life, does it make any sense to join a department to a password? That is what I would just.
Okay, that's what you want to know.
Yeah, that is what I want to know. I'm not talking about the relationship.
And if they have anything in common, do you have any matching color?
So this is the thing.
There is a
Whenever-
matching law, but I think what he's trying to find ask is, is it okay to
does it make any sense for us to join the department table to the password table?
No, since there is a relationship between employees to once an employee has gotten a password, that is fine. Except you now want to departmentalize the password, maybe you want to further based on accessibility to the information or to the data. Except maybe you now want to, depends on the way you want to design it.
So this actually boils down to what I was trying to explain the other time about the organization business process flowchart, right? In a real sense, it doesn't make any sense for us to connect the department table to a password table if no reason is given to us. Simply because password is majorly attached to an employee, right? In a real life sense. Okay, I'm working with Samsung. My user ID is aindeabiodun@samsung.com. I won't have a special password to enter a particular department. My department is my department. Whatever infrastructure or resources that I'm going to access within my organization, the permission and access must have been created when I joined the organization. And as I change my role, whatever permission they're going to give me is still going to be attached to my username, right? So here, at times in some reports, you might see some table that's just going to be like this without any connection. It might be a related table. Do you get what I'm saying? It's not mandated that simply because, oh, this table has a primary key here, it has a foreign key here. When you are joining the table, it should align with the problem you want to solve. Simply because you want to make sure that whenever you build your report, you want to make sure that you are able to do your troubleshooting and do your validation easily. So in this case, like we have the department just have the department ID, we have the business entity ID. There is no relationship between the department and the password. If you take a look at it properly, they don't have any relationship. Simply because an employee will have a password, one-to-one relationship. Mr. Fash has a password. Whatever password you have, if you want to do a project with other departments, they will give you an elevated permission to access that department resources, right? And the access is still going to be tied to what? To your employee. So I think we have like a kind of an application access here. That's another thing. But in some case, some architectural design of some organization might warrant that you join your password table to the department. It all depends on how the architecture is being structured. And that is the reason why as a data analyst, we need to be analytical. You don't have to conclude. The customers that want you to solve their problem, they always know the problem, they understand the problem better off. You are just trying to convert their problem into a dashboard so that at a glance, they will be able to consult, interact with the dashboard, and able to make a business decision. So whenever you are doing your data gathering and business understanding and how you want to structure your data model, it is always very important that you ask questions so that you be able to achieve 100% correctness for your relationship when you are joining the table together. So that is that. This is not, I'm not saying this is wrong. I'm not saying this is right. It depends on the problem we want to solve. And it depends on the organization architectural design or structure for their database. If this department contains, okay, employee application, do you get what I'm saying? Like employee application or whatever access, then we will join the password to it. It all depends. So that is that. The transaction table. So the transaction table, can a department perform a transaction? Yes, right? Yes or no?
Yes.
So you
Maybe based on their role.
Yeah. So let's create a new. Let's do employee. Let's do employee. Let's do transaction. So one to many. Can you see Mr. ID single?
Sorry, what did you click on to establish that?
So you click on manage
Manage
relationship.
Okay.
So let's create another one. So we have let's do department and let's do transaction. So let's read the message from the boat. This relationship has cardinality many to many. This should only be used if it is expected that neither column, business entity ID and business entity ID contain unique value. Neither of them contains unique value. Neither of them contains unique value. And that the significantly different behavior of many to many relationship is understood. So let's leave that. And let's see how it's going to behave. So that's department to transaction, right? Can you see, Mr. ID? So many to many relationship with like a kind of a special issue will always appear like this. Can you see? This is many to many relationship. So let's just leave this. By the time we don't have a lot of record. By the time we are writing a DAX expression or we are doing some calculation, I will do it manually. Then we use that DAX expression to write it and see if we're going to get the same result. And we can switch it back to single if it's going to take it.
Yeah, sorry, just a quick question. Maybe I missed that. The one to many, many to many.
Yeah, you want me to explain that?
Okay. It's possible that you have actually captured that before now, but I just want to know what
Yeah, I think
determined from
yeah,
the
yes. So one to one in a real life sense, an employee can only have one password in an organization. But an employee can have multiple passwords if the employee is interacting with a third party vendor. For instance, like myself, we have a vendor, and at times I have to put in log like an incident report into the vendor's portal. Before I can able to log an incident report into the vendor's portal, the vendor sent me a link to their portal. I create a username and password before I can access that. So the username and password I'm using, you can see it is not within the domain of my organization. It's actually going to the domain of other organization. So that means a single employee that have a multiple vendor can have multiple password. But within my organization domain, I can only use one password for all the application that have been granted an access to. One country to many states. You get what I'm saying? one country to many states, a country to many states.
Okay.
And many to many is that, for instance, if you have like a kind of a transactional data set, maybe for instance, you go to the store today, you buy an item, you go to the store tomorrow, you buy another item, you go to the store to the next tomorrow, you buy another item. If you look at the timestamp and you look at the product you are buying, you have bought many products within many timestamp. That's many to many relationship. But if you go to the store different time and you buy the same product, that is many to one, depending on where your starting point is. If the product you are buying is on your right hand side, on your left hand side, and the time, the date time table is on your right hand side, and your date time table, you conducted 3 different transactions and you bought the same item. But during that time, you bought this. Let's say you bought Apple. The 3 times you visited that store, that is one to many. From your left hand side to your right hand side. If I switch it to the other side, it's going to be what? Many to one. Like this employee, right, has many transactions. A single employee has many transactions. That is the reason why we have single employee with many transactions. A single employee probably has many department ID, many products by many supplier, yes, something like that. So by the time we get to the handsome part, trying to write the DAX expression, everything will be clearer. There's not a big deal, it's pretty very easy. So I want to give you a clue, and this, you need to have this handy in a notepad. You need to have this in a notepad. Then give me like.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So most times we're going to be dealing with transactional data. And it is very important that we have a date table. So instead of you wasting a lot of your time, I'm going to show you how to write this, and I'm going to explain this to you. You can just save this code in your notepad on your computer. Whenever you want to build an interactive dashboard in Power BI, you need to, that has a timestamp, it has a date. For instance, let me show you this. You can see that we have date here. If I want to do my start date, if I want to slice my start date based on the day of week, or based on the month, or based on the year, then I have to create a date table and tie it to this. I'm going to show you how to do that now. So to do that, we have to create a new table. So to create a new table, I'm going to name that table date. So I'm going to say date, but I want to use a calendar auto function that has been pre-built in Power BI. So I'm going to do equals, then I'm going to do add columns. You can see it's a function, and I'll do calendar auto. I'll do my tab, then I'll close it, then I'll do comma. Now I want to be passing my column. The first column I'm going to pass is my year. I'm going to do equals year. I'll close it up. I'll do comma. Then I'll do year. Then I'll do my date. I'll close it. Then I'll do comma. Then I'll put the second the second column, right? My second column is going to be what? It's going to be month. I'm going to do month. gonna close it. I'll do comma. Just follow the syntax. I'll do comma. Then I'll do format. Format my date. I'll close it. I'll do comma. Then I'll do M. Month, format date, okay, comma. Now do month number, close the quotes. I'll do comma, then I'll do month, then I'll do my date, then I'll do how can I shift enter? I want to make it to be readable. Let me see if I can. Okay. So I do shift enter. So that will take you to the next line. So then I'll do, oh, sorry. No. Then I'll do, that will be quarter. I'll do quarter, comma. Then I'll do format. Then I'll do my date. I'll do comma. I'll do semicolon. Then I'll do backslash QQ, close quote. Okay. So if you take a look at this, so by default, the system starting point for Power BI desktop, I think is 1951 because we are using the calendar auto. So it starts from 1951 all through. Can you see? But immediately we narrow down whatever the data table or the data set we are using. If our data set is probably 2023, this auto calendar, this calendar auto is just going to be supporting it by default. This is the best way for us to build our date table dynamically. So you don't have to write all this. Let me just explain this to you. So I use an add column function. It's pre-built in the Power BI. The calendar auto is also pre-built. I now pass the year. You can see this is the year. I say year date. Based on this date value was extracted from the calendar auto function here, right? And also I passed what? I passed the format for my month. I want my month to be MMM. So let me do something. If I add additional M, can you tell me what's going to happen? Anyone want to try?
It will give you the full October.
Yeah. So that is what is going to happen. Let me just put it down. Let me run it. So if I put MMMMM, it's going to give you the full month name. And for the month number, the reason why we included the month number is simply because at times, when we build our visual, it might not be chronological. So it is always very good to build your date table with the month number included, simply because you will be able to sort your months chronological so that it will appear from January to December, not maybe based on alphabetical order. That is that. So that's how it works. The month number is very, very important. And another thing that people struggle with is this quarter. Some people always find it so difficult to write the quarter, to write the quarters DAX, the DAX for quarter. But once you are whenever you want to start a fresh project, just copy this code, just put it in your, select the new table, put it there, that it will generate the table for you. You don't have to be cracking your brain or rubbing yourself on that. That is how it works. Let me see what else we have. Okay, so we'll create a date table. So let me show you the reason why this month number is very important. Let me go to the report view. Okay, let's do something. Okay, so now we have the date. Can you see the date is now here? What I want to do now is that let me see. So we don't have any transactional table here, but we have a transactional date here in our transaction table. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to join my transaction table and my date table together, and I'm going to use that to do just a little trick. So let's do manage relationship, and let's do new. And let's do select our transaction table, and let's do our date table. So for the transactional table, I will select the transaction date, and I will select the date. I'll do okay. We have 1-to-1, right? Okay, cool. Let's go to our report view. So I want to, let me select, so we have a transaction. Okay, let me just select, what can I do? Let me select the cluster, and let me select the price. So let me go to the date here, and let me select the month. Can you see what I'm telling you? Does this make any sense? Let's do a little formatting. And this formatting is another thing that I think I have to teach you guys. It's pretty very easy anyway, but for the sake of the beginner. So for the data label, just turn this on. Just want to see the value. You can see it starts from March, July, May, August, April, January, June. It's not chronological, right? I want to make it to be chronological. That was the reason why I created the month number as part of the date table that was created. If you don't create this month number, there is no way I'll be able to sort the month to appear chronological. So let's go back here. Let's select this. And let's go to modeling. Let's go to the view. Okay. So what you have to do is that you go to the table view. You select the column that appears that I want to, the column you want to make sure it appears chronological. You select that column. Once you select that column, like this month, I've selected the. Your first step is to go to your table view. Then you select the column you want to make sure it appears chronological. Then you go to your sort by column. Can you see when I click by sort by column, I have date, I have month number, I have quarter, I have year. So I will just click on the sort by month number. So let's go back to our report view. And let's go to home and let's do refresh. So Mr. Heidi, before you join, we are able to connect directly to our AdventureWorks database.
So you spoke from SQL.
Yes.
Okay.
So this is not working. What I would do is that I'll just uncheck the month and I'll check it again. It should work. Yeah. So now we have January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December. So this is how the reason why we included the month number is just for us to sort to ensure that our month appears chronological. Any question? Yeah, I think Mr. Alex, are you able to connect directly to the AdventureWorks database? I think we can stop the class now and let's check if everyone is able to connect directly to the database.
No, well, I wasn't around in the last class, so
Okay, you have not downloaded your Power BI.
I missed some things. So I don't even have the Power BI set up on my, on my system yet.
Okay,
So
let me just stop
I
recording.